Let's take you now to the headquarters of the New Patriotic Party NPP. Communications Director Yao Boabing Asamoah, and Member of Parliament for Adentan, is speaking now.
We're naturally worried what was happening. We have gleaned that the security forces, when attempting to investigate the issues, were fired upon. They were fired upon. And so there were counter shots. At this stage, this is what we have been told. And that exchange of gunfire naturally created a bit of hullabaloo and panic in the area. Note that this incident did not happen at a polling station. This incident is an off-polling station incident. That out of the 137 polling stations, the particular incident that the NDC has blown out of proportion and is standing on to tarnish the image of Ghana internationally did not happen at a polling station where voting is going on. It was an off-polling station incident. We therefore appeal for calm. The election is ongoing. It has 4 parties involved: the NPP, the LPG, the PPP, and the NDC. Unfortunately, the NDC leadership appears to have abandoned their responsibilities to their people. They have refused to lead, and in a series of reckless and premeditated actions have decided to throw their part of the election into disarray. We say it's premeditated because the signs were clear. Over 3 days ago, Mr. Otukuno, who is a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, issued a fiat that as far as they were concerned, the election register was bloated, and therefore, if they didn't have a register of their choice, they were going to pull out of the election. This position was maintained by the NDC as late as yesterday, even after the Electoral Commission had satisfied their requirements. As late as yesterday evening, the NDC insisted that they were going to pull out of this election if their conditions, even though they were not the Electoral Commission, if their conditions as far as the Electoral Register was concerned were not satisfied. Further signs of the premeditated nature of what is going on is that as at 8:30 a.m. this morning, there were several areas in the constituency that did not have NDC agents. Many of us here personally went round. All the polling stations we visited were calm and quiet. If there was anything for concern, it was the level of attendance and the turnout, which we needed to boost by way of people voting before going to work. It would appear people wanted to go to work and come back and vote. It was generally peaceful. And yet, the NDC did not have agents at post as at 8:30 a.m. Then, out of the blue, the NDC leadership alleges killings of people and announces a pullout from the election process in the field. Was there a fake meeting held in the field? Did the NDC leadership meet in the field and have an emergency meeting and decide, as corporate organizations and institutions ought to do, to pull out? No. We believe that if the pullout was announced in the field by no less a person than the chairman of the NDC, then this is a hugely orchestrated attempt to damage an election that they know from the beginning that they are going to lose. The reports on which the pullout was made, let's examine them. My colleague in Parliament, the Honorable Sam Jata George, and I would love to probably read out what he has put on his Facebook wall. I'm sure all of you have seen it. and I quote him, "I have just been assaulted by several members of NPP invisible forces attired in national security colors." How he knew they were invisible forces when they were wearing a dress which is not invisible forces, only he knows, clairvoyant as he is. Now listen. They fired. We are talking about guns here. We are talking about guns and ammunition. They fired several rounds. We all watch movies, don't we? You see what happens when somebody receives several rounds. You see what happens? They fired several rounds of ammunition and at me. Several rounds of ammunition at me. What was the distance? Were the guns pointed directly at him? Was he facing them? As we speak, Sam George is alive enough to have written on his Facebook page after having been shot severally. He hasn't been to the hospital. We haven't seen any blood on his body. And yet, he's told the whole world that several rounds, and this is coming from an honorable legislator of this country. If this is not orchestrated, then what else could have been orchestrated? If this is not orchestrated, what else could have been orchestrated? Now, after Sam George, you will find that several NDC apparatchiks, including the chairman of Ayawasu West Wagon, tells us that 4 people have been killed on air. 4 people have been killed. Other apparatchiks of the party, and this is all going on off polling station. In a place where there is no voting going on, off polling station, there is no polling station there. We are told by other apparatchiks of that the NDC leadership has behaved recklessly, in a cowardly manner. They appear not to have been prepared for the election. This was an orchestrated attempt which has failed. The allegations of a bloated register were not substantiated at any stage. Their preparations in the field were far short of an organization which was prepared to go the full distance. And the demonstrated speed with which they engaged the media on allegations that they had not factually ascertained have exposed the intent of the NDC. And as we always say, they were incompetent in government and they remain incompetent in opposition. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Director. We are not taking any questions. We are not taking any questions.
It's an ongoing situation. It's
we are not taking any questions. So he will do the tree translation. Thank you.